David, you're muted.
Okay. All right. Coach, with a couple of weeks now left for the LSU game, are you any closer to settling on a starting quarterback at this point?
If we were to play today, KJ'd be the starter, although I think Will's doing some really good things and just had a good scrimmage. I thought they both looked pretty good. Obviously, it was a great scrimmage from the standpoint that both sides have some things to be real happy about. Both sides got plenty to be pissed about. So, but we've revealed more work and more stuff to sharpen up on. But I thought it was a competitive scrimmage, and I thought, I was encouraged by it.
Up next, we'll go to Ben Portnoy.
Coach, with KJ and Will kind of in those two slots, where do you see Garrett fitting into this offense? And I guess, do you guys kind of anticipate using him at receiver or somewhere else?
Yeah, Garrett's playing at slot receivers. Looked pretty good. He's had a touchdown the 2 days prior to today. Had a really good play today. The biggest thing is just getting him tuned in, and I think he's got to get in shape because there's a different type of shape at playing quarterback and receiver where you do all the running. But no, he's looked impressive. He's got a sense of space and routes, and he's tough to bring down. So I think he's looked. I've been kind of impressed with the way he looked. Thought we were going to get him another touchdown today. But we came off the read. We had him, and then had another one where I thought if he went faster, he would have gotten it. But no, I've been kind of impressed.
Up next, we'll go Steve Robertson.
Coach, who were some of the notables on offense today that kind of stood out in the scrimmage?
Well, I think our O-line's improved. Let me think here. Jaden Wally on scrimmage day always looks pretty good. I thought Shavers looked good. I thought Austin Williams looked good. 21. Is that Dylan?
Marks.
Anyway, Marks looked good at running back. I thought as a core, the three young guys looked pretty good. I don't have them as great. They're still getting kind of tuned in and things like that, but they're tough. They're physical, and I like that. And then I'd say, on offense, that's what I would say. I thought the defensive front did some good things. We're getting some leadership out of Kobe. And then, Martin Emerson does a good job. I mean, he's tough for anybody to beat all the time. I thought Fred Peters and Guidry did some good things. I know I'm leaving people out, but I thought it was a good overall effort, though, was the biggest thing. I thought we tackled pretty well. I thought we could have finished blocks. We're good at the point of attack, but we got to be more than a point of attack team on offense. I do think we made some progress today.
Up next, we'll go to Joel Coleman.
Coach, back to Garrett for just a minute. What was kind of the thought process of moving him and trying him out at receiver, and how receptive has he been to that move, and has it been something he's been kind of excited to try?
Well, I think he's excited to try. Seems really excited about it. He's a really talented guy, and so you hate to leave his talents on the shelf. Those other quarterbacks, really, they don't have some of the gifts that Garrett does, and so the idea of moving them to another position, I mean, that's really not very doable. Their next position, some of them is probably coach, but he's a talented guy. He's tough to bring down. He's explosive. He's a big target, smooth runner, good hands, and so yeah, I think he was excited. I think that he's discovering they run a little bit more at that position than maybe he thought. So, but he's a factor when he's out there.
Up next, we'll go to Tyler Horka.
Hey, Mike, sorry, my Wi-Fi went out, and I apologize if this was asked while I'm gone. But now that you guys are a few weeks into camp and you only have 2 weeks until you've got a game against LSU, how much of this upcoming week is going to be used to kind of get ahead and look at the Tigers, or is it going to be a strict training camp week as you've been doing?
It'll be both. We'll look at the Tigers. Try to get a jump on that. Then the other thing is we're going to try to duplicate game week as specifically as we possibly can, so we get in a routine in that regard, and so that that goes as smoothly as possible, so people aren't guessing or thinking or wondering what they're doing when, because I don't want them overthinking that. I want them thinking about what they're going to do on the field. So we'll try. It'll be kind of a dress rehearsal of that.
Up next, we'll go to Paul Jones.
Coach, you mentioned the defensive backs earlier. What have you seen so far from that battle at the other cornerback spot opposite of Martin Emerson?
I'm not sure what they saw today because, it's kind of a blur and I haven't watched the film yet. That's what I'm going to do right after this. I'm going to take my free Coke and I'm going to go enjoy the film. And and I can give you a better idea probably in a couple hours. I know they're shuffling some guys in there. I know that we're getting good energy and it's competitive. I think those guys they're fighting it out. And, and the thing is we're trying to not just have 2 bodies, we'd like to have 4 that are really good. And so, yeah, they're still pursuing that, and I haven't heard the latest because it changes every day. But the one thing that I think is pretty good is for the most part, they're leapfrogging over one another to the positive. One guy will show something, and then the next guy will show something. And so it goes. It hasn't been a deal where, you're trying to stir them up and get them competing. I mean, they've been battling pretty good.
We'll go back to Steve.
Coach Austin Williams has been a guy that has kind of been, a spring training hero, but hadn't had his number called a lot in the fall. What are kind of your plans, for him this fall, and how do you see him kind of factoring in?
Well, right now he's in the starting rotation, and he had a really good scrimmage today. He's just a consistent guy. We talk a lot about it's important to be being consistently good is more important than being occasionally great. I think Austin is consistently good, and he continues to improve. But I would say that of those inside receivers, he's not the most explosive. He's not the biggest, but I do think he's the most reliable.
Let's go to Ben next.
Mike, I don't think we've seen it yet nationally, but in terms of with all the uncertainty around COVID and things like that, if say, you or some of your coaches are to, have to quarantine or miss a game or anything like that, have you guys put in any kind of contingency plan on who might take over, any kind of sort of idea of what that might look like? Is that something that's even been planned out at all?
Well, that'll be pretty tricky if it happens. We'll just have to sort it out. I mean, it's kind of a next man up sort of deal, because things are kind of sequenced as far as who talks to who on the headsets, and then, you just react to it from there. And then, I suppose these computers, which don't seem to be going away anytime soon, I think that'll be a whole another dimension of coaching before it's all said and done.
We'll go to Joel next.
Like you said, the last couple of weeks, you've seen some good, you've seen some bad in the scrimmages. If you had to play a game later today, what stands out to you as maybe what would be your greatest concern?
Greatest what?
Your greatest concern. Is there anything that stands out? Is anything that you look at right now that really needs the most work, I guess, over the next couple of weeks?
Consistency, just really consistency, consistent energy, consistent focus, keep simple things simple, and the ability, we need to be able to make routine plays more times in a row than we're able to now. And then The other thing, over the years I've talked about, we've got a lot of plays where we do a lot of good things, but you're playing with 8 or 9 instead of 11, and so we still play with 8 or 9 instead of 11 too often, and it's a constant struggle, but I do think we need to make progress with that. I think we have, but I don't think we've made enough yet. Of course, that's a constant quest that never changes, but I think as far as energy, playing hard, we do those things, but the consistency, we've got to really embrace consistency.
Let's go back to Dan.
Mike, I know we've talked a lot about Will, at least in camp so far, but when it came down to making that decision and making him the number 2 guy, what about his game maybe stood out, and I guess what made him, that guy in your eyes?
Good student of the game, studies the game. The other thing is, I think he's kind of a self-corrector. He can correct himself between plays, not just between practices. Run a play one time, and then if you run it again, he can correct himself. He's good at seeing the field, and I think just kind of understands what we're trying to accomplish and has really gotten his arms around that. And then, the other thing is as we start to piece together an offense and who's going to be out there most of the time, we need to get some tempo. We need to be able to do what we're doing now, but do it faster, do it crisper, and we saw there were elements of that today, definitely. I would say we had, and I'm not referring to some level of laziness, it wasn't that, it was more indecisiveness, but I would say we had good tempo half to 2/3 of the time, which, and that's the thing, is just get in and out of the huddle, get lined up, and whether you huddle or not, you still want to be in position as quickly as you can, and get the play called, and just the decisiveness that goes along with playing with pretty good tempo.
Just a quick follow. I know you guys recruited Will some at Washington State. How much do you feel like that helped, just his familiarity with you and some of the guys on your staff?
I don't know for sure. He'd be a better guy to ask that. We liked him on film and talked to him on the phone, but we hadn't coached him. I think really the bigger thing has been his dedication with all the distractions as he came through the door in January and was really ready to work,
Up next, we'll go to Steve.
Coach Osiris Mitchell, while he's been inconsistent at times, has been Mississippi State's most productive receiver the last 2 seasons. What are your impressions of him, and how do you get him to take the next step?
I don't know, but I would like to get him to take the next step. I think that, he is a guy that's occasionally great. We got to get him more consistent, and because he really is a weapon and he's a talented guy. We've got to get him to play faster, and we've got to get him more consistent. He needs to kind of be in attack mode,
Let's go back to Joel.
Clarifying on Garrett a little bit here. Obviously, he's playing receiver now. Is he getting any reps at all at quarterback anymore, or is this kind of a full-time move for him out to receiver?
Well, it's full-time today, I mean, I think we've only scratched the surface of what he's able to do, because he's only been there for 3 practices, and he's been explosive, and he's tough in there. And I think if we, get him in game shape and he really gets in a good rhythm out there, I think he's going to be tough to stop.
Let's go back to Tyler.
Yeah, going off of that, like you say, small sample size with Strader at receiver, but I know a part of this is just trying to get your most talented players on the field, and quarterback might not be that avenue for him right now. But if you're just objectively looking at him as a wide receiver, how does he compare to some of the other guys he's competing for reps at that spot? And based on what you said earlier, it sounds like he looks like a true receiver when he lines up there.
He does. He's big and fast. The other thing, he's a really good blocker. He doesn't go out there and just bite a guy, but it's pretty tough for some of those smaller guys to work their way through the tangle of all those long arms he's got. Because we're only trying to stop their feet and get a few seconds, and they can't untangle him very quickly. So that aspect is good. Right now we're just seeing kind of previews and glimpses of what I think he can do. But the thing is, I think he can get acclimated pretty fast. And, and a part of it's going to be, just getting him in shape and then mentally, so things are automatic out there, because it's different to see it from back there at quarterback and then run it and feel it at receiver.
Let's go back to Steve.
Coach, you've moved some tight ends to inside receiver with Compass and Spivey. Now that you've had a couple scrimmages to observe them, how do you think they're taking a change?
Spivey looked pretty good today. I thought Spivey looked good. And then, and Spivey over time has gotten, I think, in better shape, and he's got a little burst to him out there, and he's got some range when he runs and catches. So I think that part's been pretty good.
Go to Paul.
Coach, obviously Charles Cross is still a young player and will just be a redshirt freshman this year and starting probably at left tackle. What have you seen from him so far, and what does he bring to the table at left tackle?
He's really been impressive, I think. I think, he's a guy that plays mature, and I think that's probably the most impressive thing about him. He didn't go out there and flinch or hesitate because he's a freshman. We try to keep it pretty simple. For example, on pass protection, head back, hands up, get depth, stay square, and he does that consistently. He's got one thing that's kind of impressed me is he's kind of got the mental discipline to try to make too much happen. He goes out there and focuses on what counts and doesn't. Sometimes guys will go out there and get distracted by all the contingency plans. If this guy goes here, if the cheerleader runs around the field, and then the mascot, goes and gets a hot dog and sits on the 50-yard line. What do I do now? He's not haunted by things like that. He lines up and goes head back, hands up, get depth, stay square. And I know that sounds easy. But as a freshman in particular, that's hard, and it's hard for anybody. And then the other thing is and I've talked a lot about consistency in the course of this conversation, and I think he's been an example of consistency. And and it's just really good to see out of a young guy.
Up next, we'll go to Ben.
Mike, with Garrett moving to receiver, is that something y'all have done with any quarterbacks that you've had in the past, or is this?
Say that again.
With Garrett moving to receiver, is this something you've done with any quarterbacks in the past before, or is this a kind of first-time deal with that?
Well, actually, there's quite a collection. Receivers and running backs. I'm trying to go through let me think about that. I can give you a few, and I'm definitely going to end up leaving some out. You got to understand, like, if you're a high school team, quarterback's a guy you want to touch the ball. And he might have been a really good corner, DB, or receiver if he hadn't been preoccupied with being the heart of the offense as far as touching the ball, playing quarterback. As far as in the middle of camp, I mean, there's probably a couple. As far as from high school, Danny Amendola played some quarterback in high school. Wes Welker played some running back. We had a really good DB that played with Darcel McBath at Denver. Jamar Wall played running back. John Saldi played quarterback. He was an outside linebacker for us. Eric Morris played quarterback, and he played slot receiver. Michael Crabtree had never played receiver. He was a quarterback. Let me think here. Travell Harris that had been a running back some in high school. He's playing for Washington State now. There's so many guys. Mickey Peters was a quarterback, and actually like Schrader's deal, was a quarterback in camp. Became one of the best wide receivers in the history of Texas Tech. Who else? Let's see. Sifting through Washington State here. Trying to think of all the names. Let me see here. So he was a receiver. Well, one guy, he hadn't even played receiver, but for a year, he was a basketball player. Vince Melee. Let's see other inside receivers. Well, there's definitely more. And I know you're at the edge of your seat trying, saying, is this guy ever going to think of anybody else? That may not happen. Yeah, there's others too. I just can't think of them. If you put the names in front of me, in a vacuum, hey, name all of them like that. But if you say, hey, this guy ever played quarterback, I could probably help you out,
Thanks, Mike. All right, we have time for one more, so we'll go to Tyler Horka. Let's close it out.
Yeah, Mike, today with the full slate of college football action happening and you guys still being 2 weeks away from your own season opener, it's probably just another weird thing added to what's already been a really weird offseason. For you, I mean, how weird is it to see that you're still in the middle of training camp and these guys have started their seasons and just kind of wrapping everything together? How much of, how strange has this offseason been for you, and what's it been like to be a 20-year head coaching veteran to go through something like this?
Well, it's weird, all right. It's weird, all right. I think, though, football's really kind of a relief from this sort of thing. I mean, our players have an enthusiasm and they're excited to play football. It would be a lot weirder if we didn't have the opportunity to play. So there's definitely a lot of people that have it worse right now. So we're just grateful for the opportunity to be out there and working with one another.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
And don't come out today.
Don't drink Coke.